Shalom, shalom, shalom. Most High in Christ bless. Happy Sabbath to everyone. Today is July 22nd, 2023. We give glory and honor to the Father. We give all praises to Christ the King. We salute all the brothers in their respective places, starting with the bishops, the deacons, the captains, the officers, the soldiers, all the brothers in their respective places, all of the women, the mothers, the wives, the daughters in their respective places. We're excited to be here. We're going to start off with the reading of the law. This portion will go for about generally 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and then we go right into the topic for today's Sabbath class. Like, subscribe, share this video with someone you know, with a friend, share it with an enemy. Watch this video all the way to the conclusion of the video. With that said, let me get out the way. Let's get into the reading of the laws. The laws, Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he tried the good and the evil among men.
Not to remove the stake from the ark. Exodus 25 and 15. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark. They shall not be taken from it.
The Levites must work in the temple. Numbers chapter 18, verse 23. But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance.
No Levite must do another works of either a Cohen or a Levite. Numbers 18 and 3. And they shall keep thy charge, and the charge of all the tabernacle. Only they shall not come nigh the vessel of the sanctuary and the altar, that neither they nor ye also die.
To dedicate the Cohen for service, Leviticus chapter 21, verse 8. Thou shalt sanctify him, therefore, for he offereth the bread of thy God. He shall be holy unto thee, for I, the Lord, which sanctify you, am holy.
The work of the Cohen, the Kohanim, shift must be equal during holidays, Deuteronomy 18 and 6. And if a Levite come from any of thy gates out of all Israel, where he sojourned, and come with all the desire of his mind into the place which the Lord shall choose, then he shall minister in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brethren the Levites do, which stand there before the Lord. They shall have like portions to eat, besides that which cometh of the sale of his patrimony.
Patrimony.
The
Kohanim priest must wear their priestly garments during service. Exodus chapter 28, verse 2. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, for glory and for beauty.
not to tear the priestly garment. Exodus 28:32. And there shall be an hole in the top of it, in the midst thereof. It shall have a binding of women of woven work round about the hole of it, as it were the whole of an
Hebridean.
thank you, Hebridean, that it be not rent.
The Kohen Gadol, high priest, breastplate must not be loosened from the ephod. Exodus chapter 28, verse 28. And they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosened from the ephod.
A Kohen was not enter the temple intoxicated. Leviticus 10:9. Do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy son with thee, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations.
A Kohen must not enter the temple with his head uncovered. Leviticus chapter 10, verse 6. And Moses said unto Aaron, and unto Eleazar, and unto Ithamar, his sons, uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, lest ye die, and lest wrath come upon all the people. But let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord hath kindled.
A Kohen must not enter the temple with torn clothes. Leviticus 10:6. And Moses said unto Aaron, and unto Eleazar, and unto Ithamar, say the name for me, my tongue is tied up. Ithamar, his son, uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, lest ye die, and lest wrath come upon all the people. But let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord hath kindled.
A Kohen must not enter the temple indiscriminately. Leviticus chapter 16, verse 2. And the Lord said unto Moses, speak unto Aaron thy brother, that he come not at all times into the holy place, within the veil before the mercy seat, which is upon the ark, that he die not. For I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat.
A Kohen must not enter the temple during service. Leviticus 10:7. And ye shall not go out from the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. For the anointing oil of the Lord is upon you. And they did according to the word of Moses.
And we will begin with 324 next time, Lord willing. We will begin with 324 next time, Lord willing. All right. So today's topic, the title of the class, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Okay. I want to start with this article. I don't know who has been keeping up with the news, who has not been keeping up with the news, but down in Florida, this man right here, let's see if we can find a photograph of him. Is there a photograph of this man? Your friendly neighborhood. Here he is, right here. If y'all can see his face. Here he is. There he is. There he is. Everybody, let's give him a hand clap. Oh, man.
A hand slap.
I like that one. That's right. DeSantis, the governor of Florida. DeSantis. This joker This joker right here. Let's read the title. CBS News, okay? Published July 21st, 2023. Florida's new Black history curriculum says slaves develop skills that could be used for personal benefit. So this man, yeah. And so it's in the article. Look at this mess right here. Check this out right here. So here is the document. So in the state of Florida, if you are a social studies teacher, here are the standards that the principals, when they come to observe you, and when you write your lesson plan and present your lesson plan or whatnot, you better be, at some point throughout the school year, you better be hitting these bullet points, okay? And so what does he say? He said benefit, right? Here it is. So in this document, this is page 6 of the document, right? Let me make this large. So clarification. Instruction includes how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. So here is the strand. So when this right here, what I have highlighted as 68, this is teacher jargon right here. Okay, this is just teacher jargon, right? But he says, examine the various duties and trades performed by slaves. Example, agriculture, work, painting, carpentry, tailoring, domestic service, blacksmithing, transportation. And when you examine that, you know, instruction includes how slaves develop skills. These skills up here, skills which in some instances it'd be applied for their personal benefit. That's what this joker said. So the article by CBS, let me see if I can close it. Okay. Florida's 2023 social studies curriculum will include lessons on how slaves develop skills that could be used for personal benefit, according to a copy of the state's academic standards reviewed by CBS News. The lessons in question fall under the social studies curriculum's African American Studies section and be taught to students in 6th through 8th grade, according to the state standards. The lessons for that grade level will include teachings on understanding the causes, courses, and consequences of the slave trade in the colonies. But this is the same man who is arguing that CRT shall not, must not, cannot be taught in the school systems. Critical race theory needs to be eliminated, right? So he says the lessons for that grade level will include teachings on understanding the causes, courses, and consequences of the slave trade in the colonies, and instruction on the differences and similarities between serfdom and slavery. The curriculum says. Now that's interesting. So I guess what he's trying to imply is that the slaves they were serfs. They were indentured servants. I guess, I don't know, right? Okay, students will be asked to describe the contact of European explorers with systematic slave trading in Africa and look at the history and evolution of slave codes. All right. Let's read one more. The line about personal benefit is included as a benchmark classification to a lesson that asks students to examine in various duties and trades performed by slaves, such as agricultural work, domestic service, blacksmithing, and household tasks like tailoring and painting. Okay, the curriculum, here is the kicker. Here is the kicker. This is ugly news. This is ugly news, family. The curriculum was approved by Florida's Board of Education on Wednesday. Did you want to say something? Okay. So, all right. Well, with that, he said that they should know, take a look at the history and evolution of the slave codes, he says. Well, let's take a look at the slave codes.
By all means.
You know, since he says, well, let's take a look. Here we have the American Slave Code in theory and practice, its distinctive features shown by its statutes, judicial decisions, and illustrative facts. Okay, truth is stranger than fiction, modern maxiom. Statutes against fundamental morality are void. Judge McLean, U.S. Supreme Court. This book is written by William Goodall. And look, family, this book is written in 1853. This book is written before our ancestors were free. So slavery was in full effect in 1853. Remember, Civil War didn't start until 1863. So this is 10 years prior and didn't come to an end until 1865. Okay. All right. So now we want to go to page 30. Let's go to page 30. Let's go to page 30. And I encourage every last one of you, you can find these kind of documents here at archive.org, okay? And that way you can do your own research on all kinds of topics and subjects, okay? And you can pull up extremely old articles and documents. I encourage each and every last one of you to do that, okay? But here we go. We're looking for page 30. We are looking for page 30, okay? And so here we are. We're getting there. This is part one, the relation of master and slave. Write that down, the relation of master and slave, the relation of master and slave, okay? The relation of master and slave. And here we are. So also write this down. Hopefully you have your paper, your pencil, so that you can take some good notes, okay? So also write down slave ownership, slave ownership. Here we are, we're on page 30. And it reads, fundamental idea of modern slaveholding, namely the assumed principle of human chattelhood or property in man, constituting the relation of owner and property of master and slave. Now, this word chattel, do you know this word chattel? Okay, just in case there is someone, I don't know what chattel is. Let's show you what chattel is according to dictionary.com. According to dictionary.com. What? Okay. So, chattel. We want number 3. A human being considered to be property, an enslaved person. So, you Negroes, you were chattel. Our ancestors were chattel. And the word that's used is, let me pull up another word, because we're not going to read this word. Let me see if I can spell it. Perpetuity. Okay. You legally, our Black behinds, we were chattel for all perpetuity. A state or character of being perpetual, endless, or indefinitely long duration. Okay. An interest under which property is less than completely alienable for longer than the law allows. So this was the life. This was your lifetime. Okay. All right. Let's get back to the book.
I was gonna say
Go ahead.
that, but that chattel to me always sounds like a play on words. They're trying to call us on the slide animals.
Woo! Slick.
Yeah, because you got chattel
Uh-huh.
and you got cattle.
Woo, slick.
So that's one, I just think it's a play on words trying to talk about us on the slide.
You know what? Make a mental note of that. Make a mental note of that. And let's see what this book has to say. He said, say that again. It makes.
I said, chattel to me always seemed like a play on words.
Uh-huh.
They're trying to call us animals on the slide.
Trying to call us animals on, make a mental note of that. Trying to call us animals on the slide. Let's get to the book. Okay, so in South Carolina, okay, this is what it says. Slaves shall be deemed, sold, taken, reputed, and adjudged in law to be chattels personal in the hands of their owners and possessors and their executors, administrators, and assigns to all intents, constructions, and purposes whatsoever. Okay. In Louisiana, a slave is one who is in the power of a master to whom he belongs. The master may sell him, dispose of his person, his industry, and his labor. He can do nothing, possess nothing, nor acquire anything but what must belong to his master. The slave is entirely subject to the will of his master, who may correct and chastise him, though not with unusual rigor, or so as to maim and mutilate him or expose him to the danger of loss of life or to cause his death. Okay. This is law. What we are reading law. We are reading law. It will be found as we proceed that this attempted or pretended limitation, talking about maim and mutilate unto death, limitation of power has no real existence and affords no protection to the slave. So as we go on in the document, we're going to see an exception in Louisiana to the general tenure of chattels personal is expressed as follows. Slaves, though movable by their nature, are considered as immovable by the operation of law. In other words, immovable, meaning you're my nigga, you're my, you are my property till death do we part. And whatever come of you is my property. And when I die, I die and you still living, my heir shall take possession of you. You are mine for all eternity, and everything that come of you for all eternity. Go ahead. You want to say something? Yeah.
I was listening to that slave, though movable by their nature, are considered immovable. You know, like you kind of slipped up and said, you my nigga. You're that person's property. What I was thinking was, if you might have a brilliant mind as a slave, if you invent something, I invented it. You know, if you come upon anything of value that you think might be to yourself, it belongs to your master. Which
make a mental note of that. What you just said, make a mental note of that, and let's see what this book has to say. If this book affirms what you just spoke, or if this book rejects what you just spoke. Okay? Slaves shall always be reputed and considered real estate, shall as such be subject to be mortgaged according to the rules prescribed by law, and they shall be seized and sold as real estate. Okay, statute of June 7th, 1806. This provision, if literally carried into effect, would prevent the sale of slaves from off the plantations of their masters. More of this in its proper place. Now in Kentucky, by the laws of descents, slaves are considered real estate and pass in consequence to heirs and not to executors. From the following, it appears, however, that special care was taken in Kentucky that the slaves should derive no benefit from the distinction between real estate and chattels personal. They are, however, liable as chattels to be sold by the master at his pleasure and may be taken in execution for the payment of his debts. So if the master comes into debt, then they can take the slave. You know, whoever the master is indebted to, that individual can acquire the slave as payment, as payment paid on debt.
Human collateral.
Human collateral. In Virginia, in 1705, a similar law to that of Kentucky was enacted, but was soon after repealed. Slaves are therefore held as chattels personal in Virginia, as in most of the slave states, where in the absence of entire written codes of such general enunciations as those of South Carolina and Louisiana, the chattel principle has nevertheless been affirmed and maintained by the courts and involved in legislative acts. A specimen of the latter description we have in the following. So here's an example. Maryland, in the case, the personal property of a ward shall consist of specific articles such as slaves, working beasts, animals of any kind, stock, furniture, plate, books, and so forth. The court, if it shall deem it advantageous to the ward, may at any time pass an order for the sale thereof. Okay, so if you get in debt, we can sell it without further citation, as might be made of particular enactments in this place. It may be sufficient to state that the Roman civil law, as existing at an earlier period before its modification under professedly Christian emperors, is generally referred to our slave state. So prior to Constantinople, prior to 321 AD, okay, is what they're getting at. So in this verbiage right here, throughout this verbiage right here, he's trying to say that things were a little bit different in Rome. Okay, so in America, the law got ugly. Okay, so let's carry on. Let's continue on. All right, so now let us go to page 34. Okay, starting right here, y'all. The testimony already presented is corroborated by jurists who have examined the subject. Judge Stroud, in his sketch of the laws relating to slavery, has fully expressed his views on this point, having explained the maxiom of the civil law, partus sequitur virtutum. This is Latin, you all, and maybe I jacked it up. By which the condition of the slave mother is forever entitled on all her remotest posterity, he marks as follows. This maxim of the civil law, the genuine and degrading principle of slavery, inasmuch as it places the slave upon a level with brute animals, inasmuch as it places the slave upon a level with brute animals. So when you said chattel, play on words, nah, they look at us, they look at your black behind like an animal. You're no different than a horse, than a dog, than any other animal that they purchase. And if they breed you, if they cause you to make more animals, that's for their benefit. Mm-hmm. Okay, slave upon a level with brute animals prevails universally in the slave holding states. The same writer also says, it is plain that the dominion of the master is as unlimited as that which is tolerated by the laws of any civilized country in relation to brute animals, to quadrupeds, an animal walking on all four, to use the words of the civil law. The cardinal principle of slavery, that the slave is not to be ranked among sentient beings. You are not, we do not consider you a free thinking individual with feelings. We don't consider you to be a free thinking individual with feelings, with emotions, with aspirations. No, you are an animal. You are a dog. You are an ox. But among things, as an article of property, a chattel personnel obtains as undoubted law in all these, the slave-holding states. This then is the definition of the terms slavery, slave, and slave holdings as furnished by slave-holding communities and as understood by jurists who have studied their legislation and jurisprudence. Jurisprudence meaning the law that govern your land. Law of the land. This is the theory of American slavery. This is the way it is. This is how it is. This is horrible. This is horrible. This is its fundamental law, if it has any. This is the legal relation of master and slave, if there be any such relation.
So this document seems to justify them in the Constitution calling us, what, 3/5 of a man?
That came afterwards, right? But yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So this was before.
This is before three, right? Because the 3/5 of a man, if I'm not mistaken, is the 13th Amendment. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not, so right, so take me. I might be confusing, the amendments. So forgive me, because I wasn't prepared for that. For this discourse that you're bringing to the table, but what I do know is this document predates that. Okay, because the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment comes after the Civil War.
This is where they probably got it. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So, did I want to read this? This is page 35. Okay. All right. Now let's go down to page 37. Let's go to page 37. Here we go. And we'll start right here. We'll start right there. In the case of Harris versus Clarissa and others, March term 1834, the Chief Justice, in delivering the opinion of the court, found occasion to say, in Maryland, the issue, meaning the child that comes from a female slave, is considered not an accessory, but as a part of the use, like that of other female animals. So when she gives birth to a child, that is my property. Male or female, that is my property to do with that child as I see fit. That's the law. We are reading the law. Governor Sanchez said just show the law. Well, we're showing the law. We're showing the law. Maybe those social studies teachers will crack this open. We're only on page 37. Okay. Continuing. Suppose a brood mare, a horse, be hired for 5 years. The fowls belong to him who has a part of the use of the dame. Okay. This is some crazy stuff, man. The slave in Maryland in this respect is placed on no higher or different ground. This is what they're saying. Okay. Mr. Golson of Virginia legislature, by the use of similar language, as will hereafter be quoted, offended the delicacy of some who supposed him to be peculiarly brutish and gross. But we here find it to be in accordance with the ordinary language of the courts of law. This is the ordinary language, he says. Okay. All right. Let's go to page 41. And all this that I'm skipping, is good stuff. So again, I encourage you all, go to archive.org, pull this book up, read it, take your time, read it over the summer. Here we go. Let's start right here. Let's start right here where I got highlighted let. Let us next see how this matter is understood among slaveholders themselves. How do the slaveholders, we see how the law, we see the written, documented law, but let's see how the slaveholders themselves, how they behave. Maybe they don't treat the people like animals. Maybe they treat them with much respect and cordiality, and civility. Let us see how this matter is understood among slaveholders themselves. Hear the testimony of their statesmen. Let's start with Thomas Jefferson. In his letter to Governor Coles of Illinois, dated August 25th, 1814, asserts that slaveholders regard their slaves as property and as brutes. In the paragraph that follows, nursed and educated in the daily habit of seeing the degraded condition, both bodily and mental, of these unfortunate beings, few minds have yet doubted that they were as legitimate subjects of property as their horses or cattle. This is your president, the third president of this great country, Thomas Jefferson. Then Henry Clay says in his celebrated speech in the U.S. Senate in 1839, based his argument against the abolition of slavery on the value of the slaves as property. This was his language. The third impediment to immediate abolition is to be found in the immense amount of capital which is invested in slave property. You are messing with my money. The total value of slave property then, by estimate, is 1,200 millions of dollars. That's how much his slaves were worth. The slaves were worth. All the money was in slaves. Now, right now, you go and you buy up Bitcoin. You got $1,000 in Bitcoin, $10,000, $100,000 in Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin dry up, you looking ugly. Well, if slave trade should end, if it should be abolished, you looking ugly. Because all my money is in that slave. Continuing on. And now it is rashly proposed by a single fiat, fake money, of legislation to annihilate this immense amount of property. What? How dare you? To annihilate it without indemnity and without compensation to the owners. How dare you? I know that there is a visionary dogma which holds that Negro slaves cannot be the subject of property. I shall not dwell on the speculative abstraction. That is property which the law declares to be property. 200 years of legislation have sanctified and sanctioned Negro slaves as property. That's what my man is saying, okay? This argument identifies slaveholding with human chattelhood and the relinquishment of this claim of property with abolition. It bases the practice upon the theory and rests the justification of its perpetuity. Oh, that word does come up. There it is, perpetuity, upon the practical efficacy of the law as being neither a dead letter nor obsolete. You can't do away with this. My money is in this and this. This law is forever. In this argument, the slaveholders confide the nation consists, and therefore slavery exists with all the evils it brings in its train. By claiming their slaves as property, the owners of this property are naturally led to forget and even to deny that they are human beings. For proof, I can't think that you're a human being. I got my money tied into you. I can't have no attachments and feelings for you. My money is in you. What I care about you? Do you know how much money you cost me? Number one, I had to borrow $900 to acquire you. Number two, I'm expecting usage out of you over the next 5 to 8 years, maybe 10. Because I'm gonna work the life out of you, literally, not figuratively.
I'm not here to break even. I'm here to break you.
I am here to break you and make a fortune in the process.
That's where the prosperity, that's where the profit comes from, because he wants you as a profit.
Yes, yes.
Not break even.
Capitalist. I'm a capitalist, right? And I intend to get all the money I can out of you. That's the whole point. Okay. For proof of this, we cite the speech of Mr. Summers of Virginia in the legislature of that state, January 26, 1832, as published in the Richmond Whig. When in the sublime lessons of Christianity, he, the slaveholder, is taught to do unto others as he would have others do unto him. He never dreams that the degraded Negro is within the pale of that holy canon. This axiom don't apply to the Negro. Do unto others. No. No, that's talking about sentient beings. That's talking about people. You're not a person. You're an animal. You're a slave. You chattel. We learn from this that the Southern pulpit has failed to teach the community a contrary lesson. The innocent legal relations. Did I want to go this far? Yeah. Did I want to read all that? Okay. Oh, here we go. Let me start right here. Colonel Dayton, formerly member of Congress from South Carolina, in a work entitled "The South Vindicated from the Treason and Fanaticism of Northern Abolitionists," holds the following language: "The Northerner looks upon a band of Negroes as so many men, but the planter or Southerner views them in a very different light." The planter or Southerner views them in a very different light. Mr. Golson of Virginia, in his speech in the legislature of that state, January 18th, 1831, as published in the Richmond Whig, in reply to some members who had proposed abolition, said, "Why, I really have been under the impression that I own my slaves. I lately purchased 4 women and 10 children, in whom I thought I obtained a great bargain, for I really suppose they were my property, as were my brood mares." Mr. Wise in the United States House of Representatives said, "The right of petition belongs to the people of the United States. Slaves are not people in the eye of the law. They have no legal personality."
Wow.
Another gentleman, as quoted by Mr. Vanderpool of New York, said, "Slaves had no more right to be heard than horses and dogs." I'm not going to listen to what the horse is kneeing about, and I ain't going to listen to what the dog is barking about. All I care, if the dog is barking, I'm going to come out with my shotgun to see if it's a wolf. And if it ain't a wolf, I'm going back in the house to have me a glass of sweet tea. Mr. Vanderpool of New York himself said, he should be ashamed of himself if he ever could have supposed that slaves had a right to petition this or any other body where slavery exists. How dare a nigger think that he should be able to petition these such things? Is the nigger out of his mind? Oh my goodness, man. Had anyone before today ever dreamed that the appellation, I'm sorry, the speaking, right, of the people embrace slaves? "Sir," said he, "I hesitate not to say that were I a Southern man, I would not submit to the doctrine that slaves have a right to petition, if Congress were ever mad enough to sanction it. Nay, I go farther to say that as a Northern man, I would not submit to it." Mr. Pickens of South Carolina said, "The offense of Mr. Adams consisted in his announcing that he had a petition from the slaves, thus destroying the relation between master and slave, and denying the doctrine that the slave can be heard only through his master." Listen here, you Yankee. You coming down here stirring up trouble between me and my property. You gonna cause this nigga to get more than 39 lashes, because you're gonna cause this nigga to think that he can voice his opinion when he has no opinion. His opinion belongs to me. Everything about my nigga belongs to me.
Nigga, shut your mouth.
This is horrible, right? Continuing on. The doctrine thus explained and advocated was deliberately and solemnly sanctioned by the House of Representatives of the United States in a resolution adopted February 11th, 1837. Okay. And now I'm going to go to page. Come here. Oh, here we go. Let's come right here. When a slave is accidentally killed. Where is that at? When a slave is accidentally killed. It's on page 45. Oh, come on, Michael. I want to read something to you on this page.
Slave is accidentally killed.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, so I ain't about to use the rest of my slaves to bury that nigga. Lead him to the hall.
Did I mess up? I might have messed up. Wrote down the wrong page. Oh, man. Okay. Huh. Did I start it up here? It was on this page. It's page 44. Oh, man. All right, let me go on to the next one. In other words, I remember the point of it is that when he was when he is accidentally killed, you know, there was nothing. It is what it was. There was no foul, no harm. Okay. So let's go on. Let me continue on. Man, I wanted to read that. Oh, is this it? Yeah, because they talked about it said it gave an example. Said about this dude's a Negro's head was picked off the railroad. Okay. All right. Anyhow, write this down. Let's go to this next section. Write down uses of slave property. Uses of slave property. Uses of slave property. We're gonna go to page 85. Uses of slave property. Trying to get to page 85. We're almost there. You're almost there. Okay. So uses of slave property. Okay. Oh, let me read this blurb to you. Slaves as property may be used absolutely by their owner at will for their own profit or pleasure. Okay. And let's start here on page 85. Where it says, here we go. Right here. We start right here. Where it says we will specify some of the uses of slave property. Number one, pay close attention. Pay close attention. Now, you might get angry. So if you feel yourself boiling over, pause, get you a cube of ice, rub your forehead down. Okay, because here we go. Number one, a prominent use of slave property is unrequited slave labor. The hired laborer is employed. The slave laborer is used as a horse or an ox is used. His labor is held to be the property of his owner. At this point, he is degraded to the level of a brute, whether moderately or excessively worked. The use of a slave as a brute laborer is an injury and an insult. It is a denial of his nature as a man and of his rights as a free moral agent. The end of slavery, said Judge Ruffin, is the profit of the master. So this Judge Ruffin is saying, hey, the whole point of this is that the master makes money. So go on. The slave is doomed to toil, that others may reap the fruits. State versus man. North Carolina reports, so that's where that's taken from, state versus man. This honest judicial decision should shame the pretense that slaves are held for their own benefit. In a separate chapter, okay, I don't want to read that to you all. Let me continue on. Let me go here, page 86. Yeah, check this out. Dr. Demon, a gentleman of high respectability residing in Ashland, Richland County, Ohio, stated to Professor Wright at New York City that during a recent tour at the South, while ascending the Ohio River on a steamboat fame, he had an opportunity of conversing with a Mr. Dickinson, a resident of Pittsburgh, in company with a number of cotton planters and slave dealers from Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. Mr. Dickinson stated as a fact that the sugar planters upon the sugar coast in Louisiana had ascertained that as it was usually necessary to employ about twice the amount of labor during the boiling season that was required during the season of raising, they could, by excessive driving day and night during the boiling season, accomplish the whole labor with one set of hands. We're gonna work them day and night. They won't. We're gonna get this sugarcane plantation harvested. Okay, and we're gonna work the crap out of them, and then we're gonna work them to death. That's basically what he's saying. And just watch. By pursuing this plan, they could afford to sacrifice one set of hands once in 7 years. By doing it this way, they could sacrifice one set of hands once in 7 years. He further stated that this horrible system was now practiced to a considerable extent. The correctness of this statement was substantially admitted by the slaveholders then on board. The late Mr. Samuel Blackwell, a highly respected citizen of Jersey City, opposite the city of New York, and a member of the Presbyterian Church, visited many of the sugar plantations in Louisiana and says that the planters generally declared to him that they were obliged so to overwork their slaves during the sugar making seasons from 8 to 10 weeks as to use them up in 7 or 8 years. For said they, after the process is commenced, it must be pushed without cessation, night and day, and we cannot afford to keep a sufficient number of slaves to do the extra work at the time of sugar making, as we could not profitably employ them the rest of the year. Work them to death, and we done. Reverend, didn't want to read this. Okay, I want to get to, yeah. Okay, here we go. Start right here. Reverend Dr. Reed of London, who went through Kentucky, Virginia, and Maryland in the summer of 1834, gives the following testimony. I was told, confidently, from excellent authority, that recently at a meeting of planters in South Carolina, the question was seriously discussed whether the slave is more profitable to the owner if well fed, well clothed, and worked lightly, or if made the most of at once and exhausted in some 8 years. The decision was in favor of the last alternative. Nope, we don't feed him well, we don't clothe him well, we exhaust his butt. He has a lifespan of 8 years. Okay. Let's see here. Where did I want to go? Where am I? Huh. All right. Something happened in my note taking. This ain't good. Here we go. Here's number 2. Another prominent use of slave property in the case of females capable of being mothers is that of breeders of slave, slaves. And if the tenure of slave property be legitimate and the ownership valid by what rule of law or of logic shall this use of slave property be condemned? The argument of Mr. Golson of Virginia on that assumption holds good. If the owners of lands, of orchards, and of brood mares had a right to their products, why had he not a right to the products of a slave woman whom he had purchased? He had not the slave code, the legislature, and the court secured to him his claim upon them as chattel personnel, to all extents, constructions, and purposes whatsoever. Might he not, with other great statesmen, affirm that that is property which the law declares to be property, and that 200 years of legislation have sanctified and sanctioned Negro slaves as property? That's what they're saying. Everything. This is your slave code. Okay. Let's go to the next. Here we go. The value indeed cannot fall short of the receipts for exports of surplus slaves to the South. Professor Dew, afterwards president of William and Mary University, Virginia, speaking of the slave trade from Virginia, said, "It furnishes every inducement to the master to attend to his Negroes to encourage breeding. And to cause the greatest number of slaves to be raised. Virginia is indeed a Negro raising state for other states, to which may be added the far-famed announcement, the noblest blood of Virginia runs in the veins of slaves." So, and that's why in 1608, in 1808, I'm sorry, in 1808, because of this right here, Thomas Jefferson had a plan. So in 1808, they wanted to make it illegal to import slaves into the United States, because they had a plan that Virginia would be a breeding state. So anyone who wanted to buy a slave would come to Virginia to purchase their slaves. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Oh, no. You know what? Let's read this. This might catch the attention of some. Negroes for sale. a girl about 20 years of age, raised in Virginia, and her two female children, one 4 and the other 2 years old, is remarkably strong and healthy, never having had a day's sickness with the exception of the smallpox in her life. The children are fine and healthy. She is very prolific in her generating qualities and affords a rare opportunity to any person who wishes to raise a family of healthy servants for their own use. So you, the master, put your seed in her, and the offspring, although they are your children, they are your chattel servants. That's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah, he was advertising the girl with the children.
Right.
And it's of course property, but
She comes with 2 children.
yes, and not only that, if you throw in another $200, I give you this dog that breeds the same way.
Right. But that wasn't it, right. They didn't say 200. Take her, and if you right. You
thinking from looking how they think.
Right.
That's how they think.
This is how they think. This is how they think. This is why Santos said, do away with CRT, but teach middle schoolers this. Okay. Let's go now to here. Another use of slave property, sometimes probably connected with the preceding, is indicated by advertisements of beautiful young mulatto girls for sale, and by the fact that these commonly command higher prices than the ablest male laborers or any other description of slaves. Because that was the hoe, that was the bed wench. She is the bed wench, the high yellow.
That's what I feel. That's
the high yellow. She is the bed wench. Okay. Check this out right here. A reputed daughter of Thomas Jefferson was said to have been sold at auction in New Orleans for $1,000. Many have been sold. He's going on, but many others, in other words, many other high yellow, many other red bones have been sold for $2,000. One young woman was sold at public auction to a young rich planter for $7,500. It must be an able field hand that commands $800. So you got to be a strong stud to get $800. We got to know that you can work this field, and your owner, he'll make $800 off of you in the purchase of selling you.
If you're a mulatto woman, you worth more.
Yeah, right. You're a red bone. You can make. So I'm a slave owner, and I'm in the breeding business, and I got some yellow babies. I can make $7,500 off this red bone right here. Okay. Forced marriages of slaves with slaves, including second and third marriages after separations from former companions by sale, constitute a class of well-attested facts. Now, we're gonna touch on this a little bit later. Okay, so I'm just gonna read that. I'm going to move on. Forced concubinage of slave women with their masters and overseers, often coerced by the lash, by the whip, constitutes another class of facts equally undeniable. Okay. Let's go on to number 4. Another use of slave property, and a very remarkable one, assures us that the Southern owners of this peculiar kind of property have ways of turning it to account that even Northern ingenuity could scarcely have devised, unless indeed it be a Yankees invention. Assortments of diseased, damaged, and disabled Negroes deemed incurable and otherwise worthless or bought up, it seems, cheap, no doubt, like old iron, by medical institutions to be experimented and operated upon for purposes of medical education and the interests of medical science. So you turn old, you got a hip problem. Well, let's sell him off. We're gonna sell him off to Harvard Medical School up there in Boston, Massachusetts. We'll sell him up there, and we will let the good doctors up there do what they will with him. They can probe and I don't, Doc, please, I don't want you, I don't want you to doctor on me. Use my nigga. And I'm gonna doctor on you to see what is wrong with you, nigga.
Gonna do as I see fit, nigga.
Right. Okay. So, to planters and others, wanted 50 Negroes. Any person having sick Negroes considered incurable by their respective physicians and wishing to dispose of them, Dr. S will pay cash for Negroes affected with scrofulia or King's evil, confirmed hypochondriacism, apoplexy, diseases of the liver, kidneys, spleen, stomach, and intestines, bladder, and its appendages, diarrhea, dysentery, etc. The highest cash price will be paid on application as above. Number 5. It seems indeed difficult to foresee or imagine all the uses to which slave property may be put by the owner. The slave is entirely subject to the will of his master. He is supposed to have no conscience and no rights. What his owner commands him to do, he must do. What he requires him to be, he must be. What he chooses to inflict upon him, he must suffer. He must never lift a hand in self-defense. He must utter no words of remonstrance. He has no protection and no redress. This will more fully be shown as we proceed. The slave, however pious, and whatever his scruples, must do the work allotted to him. It may be the drudgery of a tippling shop, a gambling house, a brothel, or a den of counterfeiters or shoplifters. And he must witness in silence whatever he sees there, if it be murder. He cannot testify against the white man. He is merely property to be used. So, I'm a slave owner. I have a slave. My slave is going to help me rob this bank. He better not say nothing. He better not say nothing. Number 6, a class of murderers of slaves by slave masters may as well be put down in this category. A class of murderers of slaves by slave masters. The monster, Lilburn Lewis, nephew of Thomas Jefferson, who chopped in pieces a living article of slave property in presence of his other slaves, only used up that article to awe the others into subjection as he told them. But this was an abuse of the relation, a violation of the law. Perhaps it was. In other words, the law prohibits the murder of slaves. However, much it intends or affects will be seen in another chapter. Why? Because you can't testify. Here he gives an account. A slaveholder flogged a little slave girl, and put her feet in the stocks. She was found dead. A prominent lawyer or a respectable family was asked whether the murderer of this little helpless child could not be indicted, indicted. Thank you. He coolly replied that the slave was Mr. P's property, and if he chose to suffer the loss, no one else had anything to do with it. The slave child was property and had only been used. It is believed that no record exists of a white man having been executed in the United States simply for the murder of a slave. And they get away with this today. Make America great again. Okay?
That sounds like, who's that? Zechariah? 11:5, 5:11.
I don't know. Tell me what you're saying.
Right there, find themselves not guilty.
I forget. You'd have to.
You might be. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. So now, we see these atrocities in this book. And you know, many might think that this was better than slavery in Africa. So let's look at another book very quickly. Very quickly. Let's take a look at this book right here. Where is the title of this book? Okay. Here it is. A New Account of Guinea and the Slave Trade. Okay. And let's go to page 4 in this book. What? Oh, we gotta get out of this. So we're gonna go to page 4. There we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So now Ouida is this is Judah. This is Judah. Ouida, right there.
That was before the J, letter J, right?
Okay, yeah, this is a spelling of it. Okay. The king of Ouida came to the crown when about 14 years old, so that the government was for many years in the hands of the great men of the country, who liked it so well that though he was past 30 years of age when this calamity happened, yet they had to this time sought all ways to keep him from knowledge of governing. This suited indeed with his temper, for he was indolent and lascivious. So the king, so this is not a great king, right? His mind is so busy on whoredom. That's why they're using this word lasciviousness. His mind was so far gone on whoredom that he did not know what was going on in his kingdom, in his realm. Having in his court several thousands of women by whom he was served in all capacities. He was served in all capacities. For no men servants were allowed to be there. Being thus softened by his pleasures, he grew entirely negligent of his affairs, which at last produced such a weakness in the government that it ended its ruin, in its ruin. For the great men played the petty tyrants, often falling out and pursuing their particular interests without regarding the good of their king. So because of this, now the men in his estate, or in his kingdom, you got wickedness going on. Okay. By this means, the common people were divided, and such parties arose among them as, added to their fears, rendered them a prey to their neighbors. Neighbors meaning wartime happens and enslavement happens. Okay, so now another tribe conquered us, and they would enslave, our brothers and sisters. So that though they were able to have repelled any force which could have been brought against them by the neighboring countries, they rather chose to abandon the land than join heartily against the common enemy, who brought at this time on them such terrible desolation by sword, fire, and famine as hardly ever befell any country. Okay. So, like I said, the neighboring people would come, and slavery would ensue. Okay. Now this is black on black. This is black on black. Okay. Now let's go to the next part. Let's go to the next part.
Yeah, but that was Zechariah 11:5 that I was thinking about. Yeah.
Who's going to? No one's there to fight for you.
Right.
Okay. All right. So continuing this, right? Here we go. As for the manner how those people became slaves, it may be reduced under these several heads. It has been the custom among the Negroes, time out of mind, and is so to this day, for them to make slaves of all the captives they take in war. Now, before they had an opportunity of selling them to the white people, they were often obliged to kill great multitudes when they had taken more than they could well employ in their own plantations, for fear they should rebel and endanger their master's safety. So we conquered you. I can only take 100, and I can only keep, I know that I can control 100 men.
Yeah.
I got 200 though. I've captured 200. So 100 of y'all, I got to kill. I got to kill you. Okay. Boom, done. Secondly, most crimes amongst them are punished by mullets and fines. And if the offender has not wherewithal to pay his fine, he is sold for a slave. This is the practice of the inland people, as well as of those on the seaside. So this is how it works among the different neighboring tribes, the various neighboring tribes. Debtors who refuse to pay their debts or are insolvent are likewise liable to be made slaves, but their friends may redeem them. And if they are not able or willing to do it, then they are generally sold for the benefit of their creditors. But few of them come into the hands of Europeans, being kept by their countrymen for their own use. So in the capacity among other neighboring tribes, you being enslaved was not perpetual. You could be bought out of slavery. You were still a person.
Yeah, if somebody redeemed.
You were still a person, period. You were still a person. Okay. So now that's this book here, a new account of Guinea and the slave trade, containing the history of the late conquest of the kingdom of Ouida by the king of, I didn't catch it. Okay, so that's this book. All right, let's go back to the American Slave Code. Okay, we're about done with this book. We're almost done with this book. Okay, let's go here. Slaves can possess nothing. Being property themselves, they can own no property, nor make any contract. Man was created proprietor of the earth, with dominion over the beast of the field. The humanity of the slave is denied by denying to him any share in this original right of human nature or capability of its existence, exercise, I'm sorry. He is not ranked among sentient beings, but among things. A chattel cannot be the owner of a chattel. The slave can possess nothing nor acquire anything but what must belong to his master. They cannot take by purchase or descent. Slaves have no legal rights in things, real or personal, but whatever they may acquire belongs in point of law to their masters. Okay. Let's continue. I want to touch this real quick. Let me show you this next little part. Come on now. Here it is, here it is, here it is. Okay. Slaves cannot marry. Being held as property and incapable of making any contract, they cannot contract marriage recognized by law. In the harsh reality, we fall victim of this to this very day. The vast majority of us, we practice concubinage marriages. We practice common law marriages, a marriage that does with, we live together. We are loyal and faithful to one another. But there is no recognized document by the state between acknowledging that union. So if either one of them should die, the other is left with no benefits. If one of them should go to the hospital, the other is left with no legal rights concerning the welfare of the one that is now ill. Okay, and so those are some negative byproducts of not being legally married in the United States. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. We're almost done with this article, with this book. We're almost done with this book. Okay. This one right here. This heading. Slaves cannot constitute families, being property, goods, and chattel, personal, to all extents, construction, and purposes whatsoever. They have no claims on each other, no security from separation, no marital rights, no parental rights, no family government, no family education, no family protection. Man, slavery has done a number on us because we still behave like this now. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of us still behave like this now. And so I want to show this video. Keep this in mind, this right here, what we just looked at. And listen to this sister. This is Ebony K. Williams, Single Motherhood by Choice. Single Motherhood by Choice. This chick right here, this sister right here, she is living up to this thing we just read, coming out of slavery. Her mind is destroyed. Let's read. I mean, let's see what this woman has to say.
Black women are availing ourselves to all of the options that our hard work and circumstances currently afford us. And that means that single motherhood by choice is going to be an option that more and more Black women consider and even exercise.
More and more Black women are going to consider singlehood, raising a child on your own. More and more Black women are going to consider this.
So anybody that's in their feelings about that can go ahead and start to process right now. Because Black women that have the privilege to embark upon this expensive and oftentimes lengthy process.
She calls this a privilege to be able to purchase sperm to become pregnant. This is a privilege. See, if you're working at a low-grade job, because you can't get a good paying job, you might not be privileged to do this. And you in your 30s now, you might not be privileged to do this. You in your 40s now, you might not be privileged to do this.
Will increasingly decide to forego marriages and partnerships.
See that? Listen to what she said.
Embark upon this expensive and oftentimes lengthy process will increasingly decide to forego marriages and partnerships that do not serve us and that are not in our best interest.
She said, those who are privileged to do this will forego marriages that don't benefit us. This is a sick mind.
Times lengthy process will increasingly decide to forego marriages and partnerships that do not serve us and that are not in our best interests. And now that bypassing those insufficient relationships does not have to come at the expense of motherhood, well, frankly.
So if you decide to be single, you don't have to not have a child. You can go and pay a sperm bank so that you can raise a child and not give two squats about the father.
It's a whole new world. A world.
That's what this woman is saying. That's what this woman is saying. Right? This is the retardedness, the sickness, the stupidity, the destroyed mind of our people. Of our people. Okay? All right. That's enough
Ebony K. Williams, she always been controversial.
of her. And then here's the last little bit of this book. Here's the last little bit of this book. It's page 142. Here's the last little bit of the book. Okay. Food, clothing, and dwellings of slaves. The slave as chattel is fed or famished, covered or uncovered, sheltered or unsheltered, at the discretion or convenience of his owner, like other working animals. Like other working animals. Okay. And then let me show you this. Here's the last thing on this. Here we go. Starting right here. On these enactments, we remark, number one, they embrace the legislation of only 4 states. The other slaveholding states, so far as we are informed, have never pretended to prescribe to the slave owner the kind or amount of food he must furnish his slaves. He can starve them if he pleases to do so, and there is no law to prevent it. Okay, so this is where we are. Now, slavery is off the books now. Slavery is no longer allowed. But this man, DeSantis, he says, we do not need to teach critical race theory in our school systems. And many of the educators have come forward and said, what are you talking about? CRT is taught at the college level. And he gets on his stump and he argues and he argues. And now he says, you know what? I got one better for you all. Teach them that the curriculum says that slaves developed skills that could be used for personal benefit. Well, we just read everything belong to slave. Now, some of y'all, especially some of the enemies, some of you enemies who might be watching this, especially some of you who are of another nationality, another race. You might pull up the document, this document right here, and argue, well, I found a spot where that was after Reconstruction. That was after Reconstruction, okay? Because where was that at? Is this it right here? Where is it at? Bear with me. I'm gonna find it for you. I'm gonna find it for you. There's a spot that spoke this thing, but it was to the extent after Reconstruction. Okay. Bear with me. Bear with me. Well, okay, I don't want to eat up a whole bunch of time, but you all can go through this yourself. There's a spot in here that talked about after Reconstruction. Let me put that word in there. There it is. There it is. There it is. Analyze events that involved or affected Africans from the founding of the nation through Reconstruction. Well, see, they were benefited during the time period of Reconstruction. No, we don't have time now. We've kind of run out of time. But no, there are many countless books and articles and documentation that no, that doesn't hold. When we look at the history in context, false. So now, let's go to Job. Couldn't leave you without any scriptures now. So let's go to Job chapter 9, verse 24.
Book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He uncovered the face of the judges. He covereth
the faces of the judges thereof. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Okay. This is what the wicked do. This is what the wicked do. Go to Daniel chapter 7, and we're going to read verse 7 through 28.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 7. After this, I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast.
A fourth beast. Daniel sees a fourth beast. Continue.
A fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns.
And it had 10 horns. It had 10 horns. As we find, what we're going to find out is that who we're talking about is the European nations. Okay. Continue reading, please.
8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another another little horn.
That other little horn is America. We're going to find out that's America. Go on.
Before whom there were three of the first horns pulled up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things.
Go on.
I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit.
This is the Most High God. Go ahead.
Whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool.
So this is going to go on. This Caucasian man is going to be in rulership until the Ancient of Days gives the command to Christ, who is going to do business on this man. Go on.
His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered into him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him.
These are all the angels that are going to come and get busy. Okay. Jump down. Jump down to verse. No, not 13. I'm gonna go further.
18.
Jump down to 17. No, to 19.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast.
The fourth beast, America. Go on.
Which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamp the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of the horn that has eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout, if I said that right, than his fellows.
Now there's another writer, I forget his name, and his book is published in 1933. And he calls all of these whites, the French, the English, the Germans, they all belong to the same race of people. And he calls them to the Nordic. He said that these folks are all Nordic. They all descend from the same bloodline. Go on.
21.
Yes.
I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints,
Mm.
and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saint of the Most High. And time came that the saint possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth.
The fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth. This is the last kingdom that shall have dominion on earth before Christ returns to take possession for all eternity. That his kingdom reigns for all eternity. Go on.
Which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces.
Go on.
And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise.
These are the this is France, this is Germany, this is Russia. I don't have them all. It's in my Bible. This is Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Denmark, Ireland, United Kingdom, and Greece. Okay, and then comes also Portugal and Spain. Okay. Jump down to no, that's it. That's all I want. That's all I want. Now go to Revelation chapter 12, verse 3.
Book of Revelations. Sorry, the book of Revelation, chapter 12, in verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon.
This is that fourth beast. I'm showing the connection with Old Testament prophecy, Daniel, New Testament prophecy, Revelation. Okay, read.
Having 7 heads and 10 horns.
This red dragon is the Caucasian man. This is the Caucasian race. Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Denmark, Ireland, United Kingdom, Greece, Portugal, Spain. Okay. Did I say Russia?
No.
Russia's in that mix too. Okay. Go on. No, did you read all of this? Okay. Go to.
Did I? No, I'm sorry. And 7 crowns upon his head.
Go to Revelation chapter 17, verse 12.
Book of Revelations, chapter 17 and verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast.
So their time is only for a short period. And the time is almost up. Okay. Go to Zechariah chapter 1. We're going to read verse 18 through 21.
Book of Zechariah, chapter 18, chapter 1 and verse 18. Then lifted up mine eyes.
Then lifted I up mine eyes.
Then lifted.
Let me read it.
Yeah.
Then lifted I up mine eyes and saw, and behold, 4 horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Judah, okay, Israel and Jerusalem. Try the so-called blacks, especially the American blacks. Israel, the Northern Kingdom, which we're talking about Native Americans. We're talking about Choctaw. We're talking about Cherokee. We're talking about Navajo. Talking about Blackfoot. We're talking about Mexicans. We're talking about Guatemalans, Mayans, okay, and Jerusalem. So we're talking about Jamaicans, Trinidadians, and Haitians, okay, Belize. We're talking about these individuals, okay. Verse 20. And the Lord showed me 4 carpenters. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah. That word horn means leader, ruler. Which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. We just read here, if he wanted you not to eat, he could. You could not lift if he yelled at you, if he whipped you, you better take it and be quiet. Okay. So that no man did lift up his head, but these are come to fray them, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. There is a Savior coming. There is a Savior coming.
That's right.
Family, there is a Savior coming. Okay. Go to Daniel chapter 12, verse 7. Daniel chapter 12, verse 7.
The book of Daniel, chapter 12 and verse 7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a times and a half.
So this is only for a time period. What we are experiencing is only for a time period. Slavery itself is legally done away with. It's legally done away with. Then civil rights has come, and we are supposed to legally have civil rights. And so we are moving ever closer to this phase in life where all of this will be over. Read on.
And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people.
When he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people. Okay? Because we have been scattered all over. The work we do right now is attempting to gather the people. Go ahead.
All these things shall be finished.
All these things shall be finished. Okay. Go to Luke chapter 21, verse 24. Through 25.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
The children of Israel shall fall by the edge of the sword. Go on.
And shall be led away captive into all nations.
And we were led away into all nations. The Africans participated in our captivity. The Arabs have participated in our captivity. The Chinese have participated in our captivity. The European has participated in our captivity. We, all the nations on this planet, have participated in our captivity. Read.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Okay, and so Jerusalem, it's a place, but it's a people before it's a place. Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Until the times that these other nations, like Joe Biden having the LGBTQ party or whatever at the White House, until all these things fill the cup of abominations up, so that the Most High God can say, enough is enough. You have sickened me to my stomach. Go on.
25. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity the sea and the waves roaring.
Okay. I didn't want that passage. I know I called it. Go to Job. Nope. Yep. Go to Revelation chapter 13, verse 10.
All right, this is the book of Revelations, chapter 13 and verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword.
Must be what?
Killed with the sword.
Must be killed with the sword. This is the fate. This is the fate of the people who did these harsh things. Well, they no longer are living. They're no longer living. They're no longer living, right? Read on.
He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword.
Go to Isaiah chapter 13, chapter 14 and 21. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 21.
Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 21. Prepare slaughter for his children.
For who?
For his children.
Why?
For the iniquities of their fathers.
Because their fathers did it in the 1800s. Their fathers did it in the 1700s. Their fathers did it in the 1600s. And here we are. And now it's 2023. Christ is coming soon. I don't know when, but he's coming soon. Read.
That they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities.
So it says, prepare slaughter for his children. Go to Job chapter 12. Verse 6 through 13.
This is the book of Job, chapter 12 and verse 6.
Hold on a second. I'm in the wrong spot. Go ahead.
Book of Job, chapter 12 and verse 6. The tabernacle of robbers prospered.
They prospered. They got filthy rich off of the slave trade. Go ahead.
And they that provoke God are secure, into whose hand God bringeth abundantly. But ask now the beast, and they shall teach thee.
So the Bible is saying to the children of Israel, even ask the beast. Ask the beast. The beast will instruct you. Okay? The beast will bring us back to a place of attuning ourselves with the Father. Read.
And the fowls of the air.
The fowls will bring us back to a place of attuning ourselves with the Father. Go ahead.
And they shall tell thee.
Go on.
Or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee. And the fish of the sea shall declare unto thee. Who knoweth not in all these that the hand of the Lord hath wrought this?
Had wrought this. The Most High, no, and every turn and angle, if we turn unto the Lord, he will show us, he will instruct us, he will endow us with wisdom, with knowledge and understanding. Go on.
10. In whose hand is the soul of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind?
Go on.
Doth not the ear try words, and the mouth taste his meat? With the ancient is wisdom, and in length of days understanding.
Go on.
With him is wisdom and strength. He had counsel and understanding.
With Christ, there is counsel and understanding. There is wisdom and strength. Okay? Crack open this Bible. learn these laws and live according to it. Don't just learn for knowledge's sake, for information's sake. Okay? And then go to James chapter 5, verse 7 through 8. We're going to close out here.
This is the book of James, chapter 5 and verse 7. Be patient, therefore, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth
Waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain. Be ye also patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draweth nigh. Okay. With that, we say shalom, Most High in Christ bless. Share this video with someone you love, or otherwise, and leave your comments below. If you are not a part of Children of Israel Ministries, why not? You should be here. We should be gathering together to do the work, to do those things necessary to usher in God's kingdom. All right. Shalom. Most High in Christ bless.